Welcome back to another episode of Excuse My Grandma. It's Kim and my co-host,
Grandma Gail.
This week we have a mother and a daughter on our podcast. I like when we do that. It's fun to see other family dynamics. Carly Weinstein and her mom. And if you guys don't know Carly, she has a big TikTok following for being very body positive and sharing her experience in New York City. And it's funny, actually, a few people have reached out to me recently saying you should have her on and they wanted to see that as a collaboration. And I was like, already one step ahead. We recorded it. So,
and I think it's very important what they talk about with how young people, because so much of our lives are on our phones and looking at pictures and looking at Instagram and looking at Facebook and all this other stuff. And young women get obsessed with weight and with what they look like instead of really delving into what's important, which is their mind and their spirituality. So these two really get to the bottom of that and try to approach it in their own dynamic way. And I think it's very important to listen to because so many other families have similar issues and you're not alone.
And you guys should let us know what you think after you listen. DM me on Instagram at Excuse My Grandma. Follow us on TikTok if you don't yet. And while you're at it, rate our episode 5 stars. Okay, guys, I'm so excited for our guests today. Carly Weinstein is a digital creator spreading body positivity. Grandma loves that.
I do. I think it's great.
She also has a podcast with her mom, Pam, called Okay, Stop Whining, where they discuss mental health, body image, relationships, and more. And both of them are joining us now. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
So let's start with your age, relationship status, and where you guys live.
Okay, should I start?
Yeah, you can start.
So I live in Manhattan right now. I'm 24 and I'm extremely single.
That's good.
What's the difference between extremely single and just single? Like actively.
I'm like not even really dating. I'm just like out here.
Maybe you can give her some advice and help her. We need some advice.
Well, whether you want it or not, she will give it to you. So
I love that.
So I'm Pam Weinstein, Carly's mom, and I'm 53 and I'm married for 28 years, long time. And I have Carly and I have another daughter, Chloe, who is also an influencer and on social media. You'll find her on TikTok. And
how old is she?
She is 18 and she's at Syracuse University.
Oh, that was my alma mater.
Oh, really?
Oh my God.
Oh, wow. Best school ever. A little cold, but she's so happy. Loves it.
That's great.
Where did you go to school, Carly?
Indiana. What about you?
Cornell. So Carly, you have a very big TikTok following and on there you talk, as we said, all about body positivity. How did that get started and why that topic?
So I've always been into social media. Like I always tell like the same story on like every time I talk to anyone, but basically when I was in high school, to sum it up, I was a gymnast, like growing up my entire life, tore my ACL, kind of had like a early life crisis of like, what am I going to do with myself? So I started like a blog following in the footsteps of like Ariel Charnas. Those were the people on the scene at the time. And I started just like giving advice. I was like 16 or 17, so I was pretty young. But I just started giving advice, talking about my own issues with body image, and just talking about like fashion and fun things too, health and lifestyle. And I went to college and realized that like I could actually have a real path in this. So after I graduated, I became a social media manager. And through that started kind of just playing around with TikTok. My sister was on it first. And that's how it kind of turned into having a following. And it's always been second nature, I feel like, for me to give advice and share just like what I'm going through to like try to help other people and make a positive out of it. So that's just what I've been doing ever since.
Okay.
Pam, when Carly took over this, topic and started talking about these kind of things, was it surprising to you or was it always kind of a discussion in your house?
No, it was, the discussion started, I guess maybe when Carly was in college. She was very open about all these things that were going on with her. And then she always had the blog. So, and Carly's always been very open with people. It made me a little nervous at first because she was opening up to so many people, and I was a little uncomfortable with it. But then as we went along, I saw how many people she was helping, and I think it's amazing what she's doing. So, and then when Carly came home for COVID, we were together so much, and I said, what do you think about having a podcast together? Because Carly and I have great banter, and we're always talking. It was kind of similar to your story, I think. So we were kind of always chatting, and I wanted to get on the bandwagon with Carly and also be out there helping people. So, because Carly and I we have suffered from similar things.
Well, when
So-
you're saying suffering, could you explain?
Well, suffering meaning, well, we both have anxiety. My whole house, we all were anxiety people.
We're all medicated.
Are we on the roof? Like,
It's just in our DNA.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to get out there and help people with anxiety, learning how to get help and give people support.
are there any topics on the podcast that are off limits?
Like, no.
No, yeah, pretty much we've talked about
Even
any.
like
I mean,
our last episode, I feel like we even got into like some sex stuff, which I've always been uncomfortable. Like, I mean, we talk about that together, but putting a microphone in front of it is just like another level of like nerves for me. But that's even something we've begun to like open up about, because I feel like it's another thing that like you feel alone like in your experiences until you open up, and then you realize we're all the same.
Mhm.
So
and for me, my generation, as Gail, you might know, we didn't open up about that kind of stuff.
It's a different generation.
It was always hush hush. You don't talk about anything. You don't talk about that.
No,
Right.
that-
You don't talk about your mental health, anything going on that's private.
Mhm.
So the fact that even that I've been able to open up is incredible, even for myself.
Did you talk about those kind of things with your mom growing up, or not at all?
Not at all. I had an older sister, and I would talk to her about it, but no, with my mom, you don't share that kind of stuff. It was private.
Carly, did
So-
you share that stuff with your grandma? Like, was that a different relationship or still no?
different. Like my mom's mom, I mean, I'm really close with both my grandmas. But my mom's mom is like, she's always been like the hip, like cool grandma. And so I've always like been able to share like relationship stuff with her. Like I basically tell her everything, but then there's like a level where you kind of have to stop. Like she won't understand. Like with the mental health stuff, I think there's a level that she doesn't understand. With my like eating disorder stuff and body image stuff, I think it just gets to a point where I think it's hard for like anyone from that generation to like wrap your head around it.
Right. She
Especially
doesn't
for, like,
understand why Carly is sharing so much. She doesn't understand how Carly could be comfortable to share that.
Well, it's part of
Yeah.
the healing process. Did you have this eating issue in high school as well?
Yeah, so it started, I remember like the first time I felt like any way about it was like in 8th grade, because that was kind of like puberty. So I went to my mom and we kind of just discussed like healthy eating and like how I wanted to change. Like that was the first time I was like, I don't like what I'm looking at in the mirror. But from learning healthy eating, it turned into like obsession very quickly for me. And then through high school, I dealt with, especially around my injury, I started really dealing with the fact that I couldn't exercise. So I was like going through this like binge and restrict cycle where I would be overeating, then restricting my eating and going through the cycle. And there were times where I literally, like, not to get like too heavy, but like there were times where I literally was like, I do not want to live anymore because I'm just like, I hate how I look. And if I can't look the way I want, then I don't want to live. So I went through that all through high school, and then got a little better in college. I found intuitive eating. I don't know if you guys have like
Oh,
ever.
explain it to us.
So intuitive eating, it's a book actually, but it's like a movement as well. It's basically you listening to your body, which my mom is actually very good at, like naturally. But it's basically like eating when you're hungry, stopping when you're full, really just listening to what your body wants, not restricting. Yeah, it's like it's a lot of like a mental game. And I think a lot of eating issues it's mental. So
A lot of these things, and I know other people have suffered the same issue that you've had, even in my generation, many, but we didn't know what it was at that point. A lot of it is exasperated because everything's on the phone or on your iPad, and people are constantly criticizing. Body types are all different kinds of body types, and they're all beautiful, but we've looked at these models and these I don't know, stereotypes of what beauty should be, and it's ridiculous. It's not a normal. I blame a lot of this on magazines.
Mhm.
Looking at images that are not even possible for a normal person to look like.
Yeah.
And we didn't have a lot of that. So I think and the criticism also I object to when the kid,
The comments.
the
and stuff.
comments. I
Yeah.
think that's just so cruel. And I think sometimes you have to get off the media. You have to get off.
Well, I think
putting your
some
pictures up.
influencers now, like Carly, like has a responsibility
Right.
to be like, hey, I'm not editing my photos. Like, this is what I look like.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen a
Right.
kind of a movement of
think
that
that's great.
nowadays. But then also there's a lot of people who are like, I'm editing this photo still. And they say they're open about editing it, but then it's like, but you still did it. So we're still
Right.
like looking at this photo where you look really like, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm against the editing. And, I have friends that are like, that do it. And if they want to do it on their page, that's totally fine. But I have like, it doesn't mean, I think there's this misconception. Of course, I want to edit my photos. Of course I do. We all do. We all have insecurities when we take a picture of ourselves and we see something we don't like. And it's so easy to just like download an app and look better. But I can't do it because then I would be deceiving everyone.
No,
Kimberly, we should do that.
no.
I need filtered.
We should just test this out later. There's this
Yeah.
app. I've never talked about this with you called Facetune.
Okay.
Oh, right.
You should do Face App.
I love
literally, like,
Facetune.
you can Face App makes you look younger, makes you look older.
No,
It like gives you literally like full makeup. Like it's crazy.
I love this.
No,
This is great.
It's plastic surgery without the surgery.
We've both messed with it before. Or, like we've both messed with it in the past, but I just can't like post images on my social media that are face apps because that would be pretty effed up.
Right.
And I
Exercise.
love what Carly's doing. I just can't imagine, like, if that was, people were like that back in our day, I can't imagine it would just be so amazing for people to have gotten help back then. We didn't have anything. There was no, we had, if I wanted to find out or research something, I had to go to the library to research it. And it's so nice now that people can share their stories, and Carly's just so open with her body. And I admire her for that.
Hyping me up.
I do. It's amazing.
So I wanted to chat about this because I thought it was really interesting. I can't remember if it was on one of your podcast episodes or a video or something, but you were talking about this culture of wellness and like people now being like, I'm being healthy by being gluten-free or dairy-free or whatever it is. And that is a form of disordered eating within itself. Can you explain that a little bit? Because I'm sure you sort of agree. You say that kind of, yeah.
So disordered eating is classified as like, it can be a lot of different things, but it's really like, it's cutting out any food groups. It's any form of like restriction. It's really like putting any restriction on, it's anything that's not intuitive. It's anything that's not like naturally what you want to do. So yeah, I think any of that stuff can be disordered eating. Mom, what do you like? Do you have
No,
similar?
Yes, I agree. It is. And we always talk about too, Carly and I don't like to use the word diet. That is just a bad word in our house.
Have you seen professional people to discuss this disorder? Because this is serious. I mean, there are people who are bulimic, who are all different kinds of eating disorders, and it can't be taken lightly. And we certainly are not professionals.
So when it comes to disordered eating, I think a big problem is that a lot of people walk around for a very long time. Like it's almost like manageable. It's not a good thing, but it's manageable. You can like live your life and still have disordered eating. Like people, especially in my mom's generation, have had disordered eating for many, many years and have just never dealt with it. But the difference is in eating disorder, that becomes like an actual problem, because not that the other thing isn't a problem, but an eating disorder becomes a problem because it hits a point where you have to get help or it is life and death. Mm-hmm. And that's the big difference. But yeah, we always recommend and I have a bunch of sources on my Instagram for mental health, for eating disorder counselors, even like if you don't have insurance, websites you can go on to go to group therapy online, because everyone deserves equal amounts of help. But when I was dealing with mine personally, I was going to a psychologist, and I, had to go to a couple different people until I found the right person. I think a lot of time when people are getting help, whether it's anxiety, whether it's like going to a psychiatrist and getting medication, whether it's an eating disorder, they see one person and it doesn't work. And they think, okay, well, this isn't working for me. I'm just going to give up and keep dealing with my problem. But that's not the case at all. Like, it is trial and error when it comes to mental health. And you might need to try 10 different medications. You might have to see 4 different therapists and psychologists. Like, you have to find what works for you, but you can't give up just because you didn't find the right person on the first try.
You're terrific.
And the scary thing is that a lot of people don't want to admit that they have this problem, and they hide it from their parents, and they don't know what to do or how to get the help. So I think it's good too that we're out there giving people advice, because they're too afraid to go to their parents and say, I have this problem. And it's crazy that a lot of parents have no idea what's going on. Especially with the eating disorders, I think people hide it really well.
Well, especially if it doesn't go to an extreme. Once it's in an extreme, parents do see it, but then it's almost too late. So, I mean,
exactly.
That's why,
you guys are doing are terrific. That's great.
You want to catch it early on, because that's like when it's almost like that in that disordered phase, because once you get an eating disorder, it's almost like too far gone. And like, I had gotten to a point in my life where like most of my life, it was disordered eating. But then I was abroad in Florence, Italy, and that's when it like became like a full-blown like eating disorder.
And we were away from Carly. I had no idea what was going on.
They didn't know even like how thin I was.
But the crazy thing was, Carly had her tonsils out. She had a strep infection 8 times in 1 year. So she had lost a lot of weight from that. So when we went to Italy to visit her when she was abroad, and I saw she was so skinny, I assumed it was because she just had her tonsils out, and she had a bad time with it. So I just assumed it was that. I had no idea.
And I
she came home and told me.
Why was it when you were abroad? Like,
I've like told this story like a few times on the podcast, but I've just like opened up about it recently, that I struggled with like Adderall use in college, and it peaked when I was abroad in Florence. Like, it was at around that time that I was in the darkest place. So I was using it to be thin. Like, I was using it not only to be really productive, but I was using it to my advantage to not eat all the time. So that's when it really got out of control, because, aside from an eating disorder being like kind of an addictive issue, then I had this like actual substance issue too, which often I learned, goes hand in hand. All the problems that I deal with, they all are connected. But yeah, so that's it. It peaked then, and I was really in denial about it until 2 friends who were studying abroad in Barcelona came and visited me, and they saw what I looked like, and they left and they texted me, and I remember breaking down crying and like completely denying it. But then after it settled in, I was like, okay, like I know that this is actually a problem.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because I feel like that's such an underrated thing. Like, so many of my friends take Adderall either because they're prescribed or not, and
it's overprescribed.
Yeah,
so overprescribed.
Yeah, but they like so much. They're like, oh my gosh, I forgot to eat today, and like I think I genuinely believe them when they say that, because I know that is like a side effect of Adderall. Like, but at what point do you say to someone like, do you force yourself to eat, or like what do you do if you aren't hungry and like are taking medication, like because you have to eat?
Well, my psychiatrist, when she first prescribed it to me, like I remember like the first time I took it, she was like, take it around like in the morning with your breakfast, so you're eating a full meal, and then around lunchtime, even if you're not hungry, you still need to eat at least like half a sandwich. Like you need to eat at least half your lunch. But it is scary because it's like, and also I want to say I got prescribed it in college. Like I was diagnosed with ADHD, and I still to this day don't know if it was a misdiagnosis. I don't know if I really have it. I don't mess with treating it anymore. Because I'm at a point in my life where I love what I do. So I feel like I don't need that focus. But yeah, when I was in that place, it was.
See, I think a lot of these psychiatrists, especially in the big cities, figure they'll keep the kids under control by giving Adderall. It's really an easy way out than to get to a root of a problem.
I agree with you 100%.
About this drug, and too many people your age and my grandson's age who were at university, they take it just to keep up. And to do their exams and figure
Yeah, it's
it
because
out.
they don't feel like studying all
Right,
day, and
yeah.
they're like,
Right.
"This is like
Yeah.
gonna make me study when
But
I don't want."
it is a prescription drug, and I think it
Mhm.
should be more regulated. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to say was the stats of like people that get addicted when you're young and you're diagnosed with ADHD, like when you're a child, not many people get addicted to Adderall. Most people actually hate taking it when they're a child. But as you get older, people that are diagnosed over the age of 18, they're getting addicted. Those are the people that are having substance abuse issues, like myself, who, by the way, I never had an addictive personality. I never had, like, I was afraid of alcohol. I was afraid of drugs, but it was just, it changed the chemicals in my brain.
Right.
So it's like, it can really happen to anyone.
So interesting. Grandma, this question's kind of for you, but at what point did you see like diet culture becoming an obsession among people?
I think what happened in the early 70s, I did have a relative who became anorexic. He was brilliant and he was under a lot of pressure. He was leaving home to go to university. And then I saw it, but it was more of a control issue, a rejection, something though he was looking for attention from his parents that he probably wasn't getting. And then, of course, he was lucky his parents stepped right up to the plate when he was getting very, very thin and took him to a psychiatrist. And somehow he worked through it. He still, I think, has issues with diet. But, that's something that, like you say, Carly, you have to just think it through yourself and see what works for you. We didn't really have it. Maybe there were some people, wasn't mainstream.
I'm sure everyone always had a disorder, but I'm saying like generally.
I still think the big issue is all the photo taking of each other's bodies and showing off about trying to look like Kim Kardashian or whoever the latest person is on the screen. I think that's the biggest problem. That really didn't, listen, we had.
But what about in the 80s and 90s?
I had it though, because I had and even myself had a little bit of an eating issue also. I think more now, I learned later, I think it was more related to my anxiety, but I also did have all these magazines and all these models back then. I was looking at Christy Brinkley and all
everybody was doing that. And that was a very unhealthy thing for women.
Right. So I did have friends, we were over exercising and we were restricting our food and because we wanted to look good. Right. But there was also, it was definitely happening back in my day a lot.
I almost think like back then there was just different versions. And I've said this before, like it's different versions of what it is now, but it manifests differently, but it's all still disordered eating. Like I think it dates back to the beginning of time. Like I literally can't think of a time that it didn't exist. And even if you think of like the Marilyn Monroe days and
everyone, what I was going to say, Carly.
It's like there's always the trendy body,
right?
And then like maybe 10 years ago, it was like the early 2000s. It was like Paris Hilton. Like everyone wanted to be like rail thin,
right?
It's always a body trend. It's never like,
and that's the big problem. That is the problem in itself, is looking at the body trends. It should just be something that makes you look comfortable within yourself, that you're happy with, that you should ignore the trends. This is ridiculous.
Well, but it's not about the trends at the end of the day. It's about like societal pressure because like,
that's trends.
Well, yes and no, because I feel like, let's say in the 1800s or whatever, like women were expected to look a certain way. You put them in a course, whatever, like there was no magazines, but it's just the idea of like what men wanted you to look like,
I guess so,
has been around forever. So I guess now I'm seeing changes like this. Like a lot of brands are trying to be more inclusive and whatever. I mean, Carly, where do you see like this movement going in the next 10 years?
So I fear that like even with the like intuitive eating movement, people are turning it into a disorder. Like people are going to take, like, I think that it's always going to exist. Do I think it's going to get better? And I think people are becoming more open about talking about things. And I think that's the first step. But I truly don't think that things will ever be perfect because we're undoing like hundreds of years of societal pressures on women. And it's just like, I think the best thing truly we can do is like to support each other and talk to each other, get the help we need, be open about it. That's like all we can do at this point.
And stop like judging each other, right?
Yeah.
Stop judging.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And not take every diet. Like it's like you see now, like back to the wellness diet thing, you see like Noom You see,
Right.
Everything.
you see like WW instead of Weight Watchers, because it's like they're doing it like the lifestyle way. It's all still a diet. It's all the same thing. They're just using the trend of wellness to appeal to people. The diet industry is like a $3 billion industry, I think.
Wow.
People are profiting off of women hating each other.
So, I mean, with all
Yes.
these diets, I mean, if you ate basically balanced meals
Right.
3 times a day without all eating popcorn and potato chips and all the stuff in between, you wouldn't gain weight. You could, you know, it's just common sense. But the problem is we spend so much time sitting on our couches now, watching television. You have nothing to do with your hands, so you end up picking up a bowl of chips. It's really almost behavioral training at some point, don't you think, Carly? I mean, you know, if you got out of the house and took a walk, you couldn't reach into the bag of popcorn.
And it's also, it becomes an obsession. Once you go on a diet, you start getting more obsessed with food. You start thinking about it more. You're going to be more inclined to eat. So the reason that I believe in intuitive eating is because the focus is no longer around food. It's just around like listening to your body and then focusing on your life. So food it's not on the back burner because you need to make sure you're still eating 3 meals a day, but it just becomes like not the focus of your life, because a lot of people, you know, they're on diets that becomes like, if you think about someone that's like on a diet, like what are they doing? They're like talking about their diet. They're like obsessing over their groceries and their meals and everything. That shouldn't be the focus.
Yeah.
And it ends up failing, and then you blame yourself. I think the 80 to 95% of diets fail. So
Just thinking out loud here of like, I love pasta and I love dessert and I love these things. I also don't like feeling 5 pounds heavier than normal. Like if both of those feel good to me, like you have to pick one.
No, not necessarily. You also can have all 3 things if you eat a little bit of each and taste it. Don't deprive yourself of a food type.
and my mom
want it, then you want it more.
Right.
My mom is the prime example of this. Like my mom is skinny and she eats what she wants when she wants, but it's about moderation, and it's also about what feels good for your body. So like I'm like talking for you, but I know that like when you eat dairy or when you eat gluten, you might not feel that good, but you're not going to do it every single day. You'll do it every once in a while. Like you're not going to eat the full bowl of pasta.
Exactly. I was going to say that.
So
if I want a bowl of pasta, I'm not going to eat a huge bowl, but I'm going to have some. I like it. Life is short. Enjoy your food. So I just have such a
the other thing is people have such black and white thinking. Like we have to go all day without eating if we're going to eat a really big dinner. And that's actually going to sabotage you and make it worse, because instead of like literally binging at dinner, like it becomes a binge. You just should eat 3 solid like 2 meals, eat breakfast, eat lunch. And this is what my mom does, and go to dinner. And then you're going to have like a balanced dinner. You'll start with a salad. You'll fill up on that a little bit. You'll maybe eat like half of your food. You'll bite a dessert. Like, I think that's the beauty of balance. And I think like, I always say balance is the key to life. And I feel like food is like the prime example of that. Like you can be balanced. And I think that's what is going to make people the happiest.
Yeah.
Probably,
I would
have to have a new career. I think you need to be a dietitian.
She's so good.
You are so good, and you're so right on. And you should take on a small group of people, 20 to 45, and really change their eating habits. And I'm going to put you in business. I think
she would be great.
Put her in business. Well, you probably have the clients.
And I have a whole group that would be following her like crazy.
Right. That's so great, Gar.
So I saw you did a video the other day, like on body dysmorphia and how looking in like to try to look in the mirror less. And I thought that was interesting just because like, you know, I follow a bunch of people, and someone like a Serena Kerrigan, I don't know if you follow her, she's constantly saying, look at the mirror. You'll feel more confident if you look in the mirror. So I kind of just wanted to like, I don't know exactly what my question is, but how come there's like those 2, I guess, routes that you can take?
Okay. So there is 2 routes. It's like looking in the mirror and loving what you see, but a lot of the time that just isn't realistic for people. Serena Kerrigan can be like, everyone look in the mirror and tell yourself you love yourself, but that doesn't always work. And looking in the mirror oftentimes it is vain and it is like part of an obsession. And we need to stop obsessing so much about how we look and focus on other things and our self-worth because of the person that we are, not because of the way we look on the outside. So when you take some of the pressure off of your looks and looking in the mirror constantly, you take the obsession away all of a sudden. And like you have the capacity then to focus on bettering yourself like as a human being, because it's not all about how you look.
Oh, you're great, Carly. Absolutely.
I love that too.
No, because you know what? Looks are just one little bit of a person. I mean, you've got a brain, you've got abilities, you've got giving to others. You could do so. I mean, looking in the mirror occasionally to see if your dress is too long or your pants are too tight is just fine. But we do not have to look in the mirror 24/7. This is ridiculous.
Exactly.
And I think that's what's happening when you do follow people who are so perfect and then you expect yourself to be so perfect. That is detrimental. I would rather see my child or my grandchild do something for her brain, do something for the community, get out of the house, stop worrying about what outfit you're going to wear and go help somebody in a community center, serve a bowl of soup to somebody who's homeless. I mean, there's so many things that people can do today to make themselves feel better and in turn will look better. And because the whole goodness from inside will come out. Not everybody has the same body type. Not everybody has the same facial look. So you have to work with what you can do the best. And it's got to be less emphasis on looking in the mirror. Really.
And going off of that, I think like when a person has a bad personality and when they're a bad person, they're ugly. And I can't explain. It's just,
if they're a mean person,
when you get to know someone and they're not a good person, that is ugly to me. But when a person is doing good for the world and when they're like living their best life, like they're doing something they're super passionate about, that literally shines from within. Like they have a glow about them.
How gorgeous you look.
When it comes to dating, since this is a dating podcast, sometimes we forget that.
We have to put it on that line. We have to start going back to the original.
No, because the way you look, like we can, okay, it's not the most important thing, but it's a factor when you're dating. Like you want to be attracted to the person. You think about, do I look good when I walk out the door and go on my date? Like, is there, I don't know, do you have, I guess, advice for people who want to be dating but aren't feeling the best about the outside in the moment?
I think like one big thing for me is like I dress to make myself feel good. Like the way I do my makeup, the way I dress, and people can think that's like a thing against body image and whatever, but I think it goes hand in hand. Like when I put on an amazing outfit, like I'm going to feel amazing. And you want to, like when you're going on a date, I feel like you want to make yourself look like the heightened best version of you. So I'm going to wear an outfit that feels true to me. I'm going to like do my makeup that feels true to me. I'm not going to like overdo it. Like I just want to feel beautiful in that way. And, you know, that's like really all there is to it as far as beauty and that stuff, because really it's about confidence. I mean, a guy's not going to want to talk to me if my eyes are on the ground and I'm not making eye contact and I'm feeling bad about myself. But when you're confident, when your shoulders are back and when you're making like looking in their eyes, that's when guys are like, oh, I'm attracted to them. Like they're interested in me. It's about the energy you give off.
It's about the smile on your face.
Yeah.
It's about, that's really it. You go out there knowing you did the best. This is you. If they don't like you for who you are, go on. Like I always say, move on. You know, you're not going to waste your time on somebody who wants you to be, whoever. I'm going to go back to Kardashian again, who I don't even think is pretty. So I don't know why I always refer back to that family. But the truth is, you are who you are, and put a smile on your face and put your best foot forward, and somebody will like you for who you are, not the other person down the block.
Exactly.
And I feel
Carly,
like
you can be picky.
I feel like my mom's always been good.
Everybody should be picky. I mean,
yes, everybody should be picky. I agree. You have to have a connection. I feel like obviously you're going to be attracted to the person on the outside, but you have to have some type of connection. Like I had with my husband when I met him, we just connected immediately.
That was my next question. How did you meet Carly's dad?
Oh, my husband is actually best friends with my sister's husband. So I met through my sister. And my sister at the time, she got engaged to her now husband, who's my husband's best friend, Rob. And it could have been good or bad. We didn't know, but it ended up working out, thank goodness. And they are still best friends to this day. And I'm best friends with my sister. So
nice. You had an interesting conversation on one of your episodes about like what to keep private from your partner. Pam, is there anything you still keep private from your husband?
Well, no,
Yes.
I guess, yes. Well,
shut the bathroom door.
Yes, I was going to say that. I like to keep I still like to be attractive to my husband, and I like to keep that stuff private. I'm not one that's going to sit there and come in when I'm doing my business, or if there's grooming that I'm doing that he doesn't need to know about. I like to keep that a secret. Let him think I'm beautiful and perfect all the time.
Exactly.
What about sharing things with friends about your own relationship? I'm so guilty of this. Like any guy that I've dated, right away I'm telling every single detail to all of my friends. And I wonder, because you're always like, it should be between
your parents or somebody else or me. I don't think everybody you know from your university or your sorority is your best friend.
Like, Mom, where's the line for you?
Well, I was going to say, if I have something really personal, I share with my sister. I don't have to share everything that goes on in my life with my friends. Right. I mean, I have a few that I will share a little, but I go to my sister and I go to my mother, and they're the people that I would share something really personal with. And again, it might go back to Gail, how we were raised, that we don't talk about all those things to everybody. Sure. And that's what I'm comfortable with. Right. So those are the people I do.
They have the best interest for you. They have no agenda. There is no agenda. So they are not jealous. They're not this. They're not that. Right. They strictly want you to be happy. So those have to be the people you search out.
Right. They know us the best. They know my relationship the best. Right. Those are the people that you should be getting advice from. Exactly.
So I want to end the episode with a game we play with all of our guests, Grandma Gail's old-fashioned dating quiz. So basically we go through a few different quick round scenarios, and we will deem whether you are an old-fashioned dater or more of a modern dater. It's hypothetical, so Pam, you can play too.
Right, so do Carly first.
I haven't dated in 28 years. Go Carly first.
It's like a hypothetical. So the first one is, would you rather receive a call or a text from the person you're dating?
A text. If it's early on, it depends. If it's early on, a text.
Yeah. Pam, what about you?
And I guess I would say a call. No, if we're in this day and age, a text maybe is easier.
Would you sleep with someone on the first date?
Not if I liked them.
Not in a million years. Never.
Dating apps or setups?
Setups.
Yeah, I say setups. I agree.
Move in together before getting engaged, or wait until you're engaged to move in?
Before getting engaged is okay.
And I did that, and my father was not happy at all. He would not step foot in my condo, but we knew we were getting engaged.
Should the guy pay for the date, or should you alternate or split it?
The guy should pay.
The guy should pay 100%.
More traditional.
Yes. I think they would be.
It's funny. I am traditional, in a lot of. I'm a feminist, but also I need the guy to be the more dominant person and take over in that way.
It really is the same.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. And I think there's a misconception that you can't be a feminist and expect chivalry at the same time, which is not true. In business, I want to be treated as an equal, but in romance, different roles. It's not one is more important. They're just two different roles.
And women, we need to be courted. We need to be for guys, it's not they don't care about that stuff. But for women, we need to be warmed up. We need to be wined and dined first. Yep. That's
it makes it exciting.
It's the guy still supposed to be doing the chasing. That's the bottom line.
Exactly.
They have to chase.
Yes.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so happy we got to have this conversation. Tell our listeners how they can find you.
So they can find our podcast on all platforms, Okay Stop Whining, and our Instagram, Okay Stop Whining. And then my Instagram at Carly_Weinstein, and TikTok, Carly Weinstein 1. And then Mom, what's your Instagram?
I'm just Pam Weinstein on Instagram. And I'm on Facebook. And I have 2 TikToks.
Cut that out.
I literally have 2 TikToks. I'm so happy that we got to meet you guys. I was fans of yours like a while back during the pandemic. I just think you guys are amazing. So I was so excited to meet you.
Thank you.
Well,
Well,
we're
we'll
so
have to
glad.
all do something in New York sometime. when
Yes,
we're-
yes.
Sure.
Or Florida. We love to come to Florida.
Thank you guys for listening. We hope you enjoyed the episode with Carly and Pam.
Well, I think, Kim, it was very interesting. And I think that a lot of people out there should really listen carefully to what young women are saying today and how we can help them have healthy attitudes toward food and exercise and so much of our daily life.
So again, you guys can follow us on TikTok and Instagram at Excuse My Grandma, and we will see you next week.